Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Your Nonprofit Power. I'm Amy Fazio, and I am so excited to announce that we are officially a streaming podcast. We talk about all things nonprofit here on Your Nonprofit Power. We're all about helping you own your power. So I'm super excited about our guest today. Heidi is going to help us build the foundation for a stress-free, sustainable fundraising model because that's what we're all about here. We know that it takes leadership skills and communication skills, and we cover all of those topics. Today is a really special topic for me because I'm introducing you to my coach, and she has helped me learn how to play the inner game and the outer game and stepping more and more into being a fearless fundraiser. So let's welcome Heidi to the stage. Heidi Parr Kerner, welcome to Your Nonprofit Power. How
Thank
are
you.
you?
Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here and honored to be on your podcast. So thank you so much for having me.
Heidi, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to introduce you to our community of nonprofits. I know
Yes.
you work with a whole bunch of people, inspiring and empowering and helping us step into our true influencer selves. Tell
Yes.
us a little bit about your work with different types of organizations and how you have decided to help people step into their power. Introduce yourself.
I'm Heidi Parr Kerner, and I'm a business consultant and marketing coach. And as you know, some of the specifics that I work on is helping people with their presentation skills and helping them to own their power, to get out there and to learn to talk about their business with confidence, charisma, and with clarity. So I'm seasoned. I've been doing this for over 25 years. And I love working with nonprofits. I've been on the nonprofit board here in Erie, Pennsylvania, several years ago for many years. I work with companies and then I work with entrepreneurs as well.
You help leaders. You know what I love about watching you work and working with you, Heidi, is you really help leaders go beyond what they thought possible. And I'm curious, is that how you see your work and how you empower and help people kind of achieve their big vision?
Well, I love that and the big vision. And I'd like to say, I like to combine all the skills of Heidi, which is, my background is as a therapist. So I bring psychology to the table. Of course, woman's intuition. And my marketing piece is I like to say, I'd like to hold the space for people to play bigger. And when I see somebody and somebody like yourself, I mean, when you came to me and thank you, you're so open about being coached, I see you're already successful. I mean, you already have it going on. You don't really need a Heidi. However, people come to me when they want that extra polish. We all need support. I'm a coach. I've been doing this for over 25 years. I always have coaches to help me go higher. It keeps us accountable
Yeah.
and polished. So it doesn't matter if I'm working with nonprofits, entrepreneurs, or corporations. It's like, how can we go to the next level? Let's push ourselves. Let's get out of our comfort zone and play on a bigger stage. There's always a bigger stage for us to get to.
I mean, the world needs it, right, Heidi? Like if we all step into our power, if we all bring our magic to what we do and to our loved ones and to our families and to our missions, the world is a better place. And I love that that's what drives you, is if everybody's kind of operating at their highest level, it benefits all of us for sure. I'm curious, you know my work very well, and we talk a lot about our journey of becoming fearless in our fundraising. You and I use different words, but we're all about being fearless and fired up. That's why I love working with you. What would you say when you work with entrepreneurs and companies and nonprofits? I'm curious, what do you think is unique to nonprofits, challenges and opportunities? Do you see a difference in that work?
Well, there's a couple things to that. First of all, that fearless word I absolutely love. And I know growing up, there's the book Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. So one thing that I know for sure that we all have in common, it doesn't matter, again, corporate, entrepreneurs, and nonprofit, is there's often a lot of fear. And how do we step through that? How do we step into that? How do we not hide? And that's where I come from, because growing up, I was Heidi the hider. That's my new phrase. Like, I was so shy growing up. I call myself a recovering introvert. I was so shy growing up that I wasn't stepping out in a bigger way. I was still in my 20s and I was going to networking events and hiding in the ladies' room. So one of the messages that I like to share is, first of all, to how do we overcome that fear is just to say yes. As basic as that is, to say yes to that opportunity, say yes to that speaking engagement, say yes to showing up, to break through that fearlessness. And that's what everybody has in common. My nonprofits, oftentimes the fear is, ooh, well, how do I ask? I'm afraid to ask for the money, or I'm afraid they told me to speak in front of 100 people. I'm not quite ready. There's fear with that. My entrepreneurs have to be on video all the time. They have to do podcasts like we are today. Step through it. Just say yes. Corporate, they're dealing with communication issues. They're dealing with not being heard. They're dealing with how do I come across as a strong, assertive woman and not, have that other B word. How do we find that balance? So I feel like there's a stream that it's all really the same. It's just showing up.
I love that answer because that's a lot of what we talk about, right? It's a tax code, not a religion. So being a leader, whether it's in your community or nonprofits or running a business, or some of the bravest among us, those entrepreneurs unlocking the front door of a business on a main street somewhere, right?
Yes.
Each of those roles take courage. And I think I hear you saying really being self-aware and tackling fear is such an important part of breaking through in your growth. Is that?
Absolutely. And being a leader and owning that, even if you don't have the title of a leader, to step into being a leader, step into that energy of being a leader. And again, not letting the fear stop you and just doing it with confidence. And like the word you said, doing it with courage. And I like to add, doing it with a little charisma. So that's really important. You've got to have the energy. That's one thing I want to talk to all the nonprofits about right now. Now I'm going to go off on a tangent.
Yeah, let's hear it, Heidi.
let's do it. Because again, being, on the nonprofit board and working with nonprofits, there's so many charity-hearted people that want to help. Well, we get so serious about it. It's a nonprofit. There sometimes becomes this heavy energy, and it's like so serious. And I'm like, you know what? We want to make a difference. We can lighten up just a little bit. So those are some of the things where we want to learn how to present ourselves and communicate, again, with confidence. It takes courage to do this. It takes courage to get out of our comfort zone. It takes courage to have your own business. You're in the nonprofit world, Amy, but you have your own business. Amy, it takes courage every time we talk about you doing a speaking engagement, you stepping out there, once again, being vulnerable. But to add that charisma, which you have a lot of, you have natural charisma, Amy. But sometimes we forget to just smile and let that warmth come through, if that makes sense to you.
It makes so much sense personally and also in terms of nonprofits. A lot of the values of community building that I talk about is that you have to make it fun and engaging. As serious as the work is we're doing, people want to spend time with people that make them feel good. That's just true. And so I think you really help help set the stage or set the tone for you can have major breakthroughs, you can tackle fear, you can show up in vulnerable ways, but you can also do it in a spirit of engagement and fun. That's where we learn best, I think.
Absolutely. And I find so there's so many of the similarities. The big differences that I like to have fun with is the language. That's what I've learned along the way. So this is where we all should be business chameleons. But again, the nonprofit world is I go in and I teach them how to ask for the gift. It's sales training, teaching them how to ask for the gift. Or the nonprofit world, everything's capacity building, capacity. In the corporate world, everything's personal presence, charisma, emotional intelligence. And then in the entrepreneur world, it's more like, let's just own it, sister. Let's just have fun and let's have some charisma. But it's the language, but everybody wants to make a difference. And I feel like if they find me, there's something inside of them, whatever role it is, even if it's a big company that they want to go to the next level, they want to feel more comfortable and confident. They want to go for an interview to go up the corporate ladder. It's playing bigger. And that's what I'm all about is I push myself every day to play bigger. I'm out of my comfort zone every single day, and I expect that 100% from my clients as well, as you know.
Well, there's nothing more wonderful when I'll text you and say, "What do you think about this opportunity?" Or how would you frame this? Or your answer is always yes, do it, we'll figure it out, make it happen. And it's such
Exactly.
a cheerleader in the back corner reminding me that, one, we will figure it out. We figured it out for, between the two of us for 50 years. So I'm guessing plus. So I'm guessing we'll figure this one out too. But getting comfortable with that discomfort in a confident way. Talk to us about these 3 ingredients that you keep referring back to in your book, which I enjoyed reading, and I know you so well, and I still enjoyed and learned so much more about you by reading the book, Step into Your Spotlight. Congratulations on this major accomplishment.
Thank you. I'll do my little, I'll do my little holding up my book, Step into Your Spotlight. That's just about a month now. And I'm having a lot of fun with it. And
Great read.
Thank you. So there's a couple of things in the book I call them the 3 sisters. And basically, when I was so shy growing up and couldn't talk to anybody, it's kind of like I had to invent my invisible friends. And I invented these 3 sisters. One I called confidence, one I called charisma, and one I called courage. And it's like I needed to act as if in certain situations back then that I was the popular girl. I would watch the popular girls, and they had so much charisma, and the boys wanted to go steady with them, and the girls wanted to be their friends. As an introvert, and those of you that are out there who are introverted, we observe and we watch. And I'm like, I don't want to hide. That's comfortable for me, but I knew there was something inside of me that wanted to play bigger, but I didn't know how to do it. So a big part of what I talk about is what does somebody with confidence look like? Think of a role model. How would they act? I have a lot of my clients do that. I'm like, how'd you get through the speaking engagement? They said, I pretended I was Heidi. Now, not to be over the top, I'm a frustrated actress, so not this level of animation, which I know I can have. But to pretend, I pretend sometimes I'm Marie Osmond. Some of your viewers will be like, who's Marie Osmond? A lot of us know. You can hear this in my bloopers, Amy. When I do videos at home, I do a lot of videos. And when I feel like I'm being too verbose or I'm not getting it, you'll hear bloopers that say, I'm Marie Osmond. That confidence comes forth. So using the 3 sisters to step into your spotlight. A quick example, a couple of weeks ago, one of my clients that I've been coaching, she's in speaking, and she was so nervous. It was her first speaking engagement. I was able to be available in the audience and watch her. She got up there. She was very open and vulnerable with everyone. And she said, have you read Heidi's book? She goes, she talks about the 3 sisters. And right now I'm calling on courage. I'm calling on confidence and charisma, because she kind of has that resting bee face that we talk about.
Zoom face. I call it the resting Zoom face now.
Oh, see, that's
after 6 hours of Zoom.
I think a bad word, but it's kind of this face. And it's a game, but she stepped into it. So yeah, it is a game. And it's acting as if, and it's having a role model. Now, not to say the backup isn't there, because if I just said to you, Amy, or I say to somebody, just go to the networking meeting with some confidence. No, where the theories come in, and I talk about theories in the book and hands-on things, is how to say hello, how to communicate your message. I know you and I are on the same page with you've got magnify your mission and your message. I also talk about the message of public speaking, how to talk about your nonprofit in a way that people are like, wow, I get it. How to do a video on your nonprofit so people are touched. So it's bringing in the 3 sisters, but having the skills, the communication skills on how to be concise and clear. Am I being concise and clear? Like I teach this, and it's
I'm picking up what you're putting down for sure. I love that you framed it as these 3 sisters, and I now go back to these 3 attributes. I'm curious though, were you really 15 or so when you identified these sisters of yours and named them this?
Yes.
Because that's wise for a young person to say, here are my strengths, here's where I want to grow. I'm going to pull my my posse together to keep me supported along the way. That's pretty wise.
I think at the time there were more people's names. Like I wanted to be Jan Over. I
Which
wanted
represents that.
yeah. So instead of, as specific, but that's what came forth. And it was the truth that I was so shy, and it was a couple of years, that 13, 14, 15, and I was like the geek. I was bullied in school. And the transition was that all of a sudden my father came downstairs and he goes, "We're moving to Erie, Pennsylvania." And as a typical teenager, I ranted and screamed and cried, "I'm not going." But then that's when this whispering happened at that young age and said, "This is your chance. Your new school doesn't know you. They don't know the geeky little girl." And I'm like, all those years that I've been studying the popular girls, what would that be like to dress a little differently, to walk a little differently? So I did things. I talked to myself in the mirror. Now I call them positive affirmations, but I did that. I worked on my confidence. I dressed differently. I walked into my new school and everybody wanted to be my friend. But it's because of those sisters. And it came back in my 20s. I was in Los Angeles working for a networking group, and that's where I used to hide in the ladies' room. I didn't know what to say. I didn't have those social skills, but I watched the women in Los Angeles, the entrepreneurs, walk in to that room, and everybody wanted to follow them, and they had charisma and they had a message to share. So I'm believing in role modeling and stepping into it, but also getting a coach to learn the communication piece.
Well, I love the fact that you make it tangible. Because it is about skill development. This isn't something that all of us came out of the womb with charisma, courage, and confidence.
Right.
It is a muscle you develop over time. And I'm wondering if any of our listeners have this experience where they go to funders meetings, or they have a major donor meeting set, or they're about to write a grant and they're not quite sure what to say or how to convey it. And each of those are a little different. So you have to be really grounded. And I don't know about you, but when clients come to me, sometimes they'll say, "I start talking about the mission and I can see I'm losing people.
Yes.
I can see them start to glaze over. And then we don't get that proposal, or I didn't get as much as I asked for. Or I walked out of there not asking at all because I didn't feel it was the right time, because we didn't make that connection." I go back to your three attributes of confidence, courage, and charisma, that the message really has to kind of play and dance between those attributes. And I don't care if you're talking to your best friend or your husband about your mission, or a grant, or an interview with a major donor. Your messaging, has to be on point, clear, and concise. I can just speak to my journey working with you, and it's been about a year, Heidi. And, what I think I said to you in those first sessions about a year ago, when I came to you saying, I want to get better at a couple of things. I want to be a better professor when I'm teaching my civic and community engagement.
Yes.
I want to be a better presenter when I'm doing keynotes and your nonprofit power. And I want to be a better coach. I want to do a better job of supporting my clients and stepping into their power, into their spotlight. And you gave me what's great about your model and how you support is a very specific framework of how to nurture and build these muscles of charisma, confidence, and courage. And I'll tell you something is I had a couple of these things in place, and it took me very far, right? I feel I had some charisma and some confidence, but you helped me see the courage a little differently. You helped me really own and lean into the vulnerability. And you said to me just a month ago, "I know you'll have made it when you trust yourself to throw your notes out, that you know what your audience needs, and you can respond right on the spot." And that is the courage part that, I continue to build. And I think all fundraisers continue to build.
Absolutely. I love that. And working with people in public speaking. And I love it when I say that. I know you've made it when you can throw out the notes, and when you can, and you and I talked about this, I think, recently, you can flip the conversation. Maybe you have your agenda in your head, and all of a sudden the audience has that glazed look and they're not quite with you. And it's like, ding, ding, ding. Let me trust myself. I'm the expert here, and let me go in a different direction, because the direction I'm going in is not working. The other thing that you brought up, Amy, is a visual, which I love, is like going to a networking meeting or a conference. And like you said, people don't always have their messaging down. You and I both work on that. But there's another three little strategies I call it's going back to basics, the ABCs, because it's easy to remember. And
Yeah.
A is for attitude. As basic as that is, it's always shocking to me. I am seasoned. I work with people all the time. I'm on Zooms, corporate. I'm always amazed how sometimes the attitude's a little negative. And the attitude is just that energy where people are short with us. They're not watching their body language. They're not watching their tone of voice. Those are all the things that I want to help my clients incorporate or be more intentional. Speaking of the spotlight, having the spotlight come down, like we've got to look at ourselves. How are we coming across? How are we being perceived? Because again, that's why sometimes we don't get the gig, we don't get the money, we don't get the fundraising. The B, be present. Be yourself. A big part of my coaching, Amy, is I tell people, and this was in the beginning with you, because we feel like we have to be a certain way. We have to be so professional.
Well, we have to have all the answers, Heidi.
We have to have oh, thank you, Professor. Yes, we have to have all the answers. And I'm like, no. When you be present, let that personality come out. That's what's going to engage. But the C is what we've already alluded to, is the communication. So again, I don't just say go to a networking meeting and hope it works.
Wing it,
I teach people, what's their one-liner? So when someone says, what do you do for a living? And how can you clearly, another C, and concisely, another C, and with confidence, talk about what it is that you do in a way that our people are like, tell me more. Tell me more. So those are the messages that I teach one-on-one. I talk about it in the book as well as my workshops. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so important. And I love that encouragement at the frame or the context you provide, that it is about leaning into trust yourself. Kelly is joining us today. So our mutual friend who connected us a year ago.
Kelly. Our fan, Kelly.
Oh my gosh. We got to get a reunion going.
She's my PR girl now. But she stepped into her spotlight. We worked together speaking and stepping into her spotlight. It's such an honor to work with people who want to play bigger and they're already successful in their own life and just want to be polished. There's a vulnerability with that. That's courage to ask for help.
Yeah, and it is courage to ask for money. But I think when you work on your talking points and your clear, concise message, you're going to learn that when the meeting isn't going as expected, sometimes I think fundraisers feel like more facts, more information, more sad stories. I'll just say it, right? That's the only part of the formula they need to keep drilling down on, rather than leaning in and trusting yourself to say, what is this person really interested in? What is it they're trying to tell me? What does this situation need from me? I think that's what's really exciting about being a leader is that those communication skills to slow down enough to listen so you can provide a response, not react, but respond, right? That really meets the needs of the folks that you're talking to, that you're working to inspire, to give you money.
Money. I love what you're saying, and it is. And this goes back to some of my B's, and it's to be curious, to be a good listener. Again, we go in often and we think it's sales, and then we just have to like shake them up. Be curious. Find out what their needs are. Find out what their pain point is. The other dive, though, because like you said, I like to teach people the outer game, the psychologist in me, the inner game. Here's a little nugget. If we have issues with money in our life, it's sometimes hard. Ooh, how can I ask for money? Or the fear of rejection. So it's like really separating that and doing your own work about, I know this nonprofit. I love it. It's worth it. And it's okay. Let me get the role model out. It's okay to ask for money for the bigger cause. And it's okay, to feel rejected. It's okay. Don't take it personally. So there's a lot of the inner emotions that go along with that. And I address those because I can teach anybody all day long sales training or how to ask for the sale or the gift or public speaking. But if I don't deal with the fact, are you afraid to be seen? Are you afraid to be judged? If I don't deal with the inner game, it's not going to work. So
Listen,
it's
if you don't
a
believe it,
workout.
nobody else is going to believe it, right? If you're not believing that the investment is a worthwhile one and you're
Yes.
proud to talk about it, it's really, really difficult to expect people around you to step up further
Yes.
than you're willing to value your work more than you do. It's very, it's when fundraising starts to feel salesy, right?
Right.
When sales starts to feel salesy, I love to sell. I love to connect people with things they care about. But I don't like it feeling bad. I like it when they're thanking me, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. We none of us want to be like the icky salesperson. One of my little tips on that is for anyone listening, and if that resonates with them, I love the word if. When you can feel when you're next to someone and they're like, you feel like, ah, I feel like I'm being salesy, but I don't know how to get out of the situation. You start throwing the word if, it lets people off the hook. If you're interested, if I
Oh,
can help you, if you know of anyone, if I can support you. So
if
there's
this is a
choice
mission
of
that
the
makes sense for you, if this is a mission you can get behind,
yeah,
yeah, that's a really great one.
lets
You
people
know,
off. So I haven't taught that to you, Amy. So you'll have to keep me
yeah,
around. I keep
yeah, we haven't talked about this. I think we're talking keynotes. We're going to talk sales too. We're going to talk about it all.
yeah, yeah,
If it makes sense for you. I love that because it takes the pressure off you too.
yes,
Right? You're not, really important to remember. We're not convincing people. We're finding our people and we're giving them an opportunity. And it just makes doing your life's passion so much more fun and
right,
less stressful.
absolutely.
Heidi, I'm sure there are other things you want to cover. One thing I want to make sure we talk about is something you mentioned in the book, which I love, the busy bee.
Mm.
Can you talk to us about this busyness? Everybody's so busy.
I think we wear it sometimes as a badge of honor. Like I'm busy, and then it's like, oh, okay,
Okay.
you know and it's this multitasking. Of course, I'm guilty of being in the busy disease. That's why I know the character so well. But the busy disease doesn't really serve us. It's been proven over and over again. We multitask, we're all over the place, and we're not completely present, and we're wondering why we're not hitting our goals or going to the next level because we're busy.
Lady, do you know the woman? And it really is often the woman who runs into a meeting 3 minutes late, like it's the end of the world, right? I haven't been on time since 1976, I don't think. She runs into the meeting and interrupts everybody to apologize 30 times about how late she is. So, in her effort of being discreet, she has just blown up the whole flow of what was happening in the room. And that one always cracks me up, right? I'm so
Yeah.
busy. Look how late I am.
Look how late I am. And again, all psychology, because in the book too, I talk about the tardy T's. Because I'm a time management, very strict with that. Because you're right. See, what happens is now I bring in the psychology, because I'm like, they want attention. What are they doing? So they're setting, it's all like a sabotage. And then they walk in, and do I really want to do business with them when I feel like someone's all harried?
Why would I
Shine
want
the
to
sun
invest
on
in
your
somebody who's totally overwhelmed?
Yeah, they're totally overwhelmed, but they're also in some part acting out. So how can you slow down? I just did a video on this morning. Actually, I was out doing some errands and I just felt called because a lot of people are resonating with the busy bee and saying, that's me, that's me. How do I get out of it? And there's I have many tips in the book, but the one that I talked about today is the power, which many of us don't know, of how to say no to things. Many of us were busy, but we want to be super women. We say, oh, yes, I'll volunteer at the fundraiser. Oh, yes, I'll go to the cocktail party. Oh, yes, I'll help you with that project. And how do we put up boundaries with the busy bee so that we can slow down and be more present? The power of no.
Yeah, I love that. That one really speaks to me because I've spent a lot of time slimming down my schedule and simplifying. It's a core premise of the Magnify Your Mission system, to create a simple strategy. That's how we avoid burnout. Period. It's the only way. Doing more is never going to work. More is never going to work. And I can say that when I started my journey of choosing not to be addicted to busyness, I said no to some really difficult things. I often have my pin, Heidi, which is a pair of scissors. My grandmother was a seamstress. So this year, I don't have them in front of me, but
Oh,
this
okay.
year my pin is cutting I'll have to share it with you, cutting
Yeah.
down the busyness. And I stepped away from things I cared about, volunteer positions, board positions. Um, my husband and I renegotiated some of the things I was doing in the household. So giving up picking kids up, things that I enjoy doing, but just didn't add up. There weren't enough hours in the day. But it was a very intentional and deliberate process I engaged in, and it got easier as I went. So the
It
first
is.
few rows were very difficult, and then
It's,
all of a
and
sudden,
you know what? I think it still can be when you want to be there for people. And sometimes you feel like I'm being so mean. And this is like this little video that I just was called to do this morning was, and I learned this a long time ago too from one of my coaches, because we feel guilty of like, how do I get rid of the guilt? And I remember this coach telling me, "You're not. Just feel the guilt. It's a feeling, and it will go away." And she's right, because it's like, you know what? We can't do everything, but then we get burnt out, Amy. Like you said, we get sick. I know your viewers out there, I know for myself, our body will tell us when it's too much.
yeah.
And I love your word. We need to be intentional about these things, very intentional, and decide, because how can we play bigger when we don't go to the next level? So, for example, if I have a coach or somebody, this is just an example of a gal. She was a chiropractor, and she was a young chiropractor starting her business, but she also taught yoga classes, and she loved teaching the yoga classes. And I fought with her, you got to let the yoga classes go because you can't build your practice. And it was very hard for her to let go because she loved it and everything, but to play bigger and to play on the bigger realm of really wanting to heal people in the chiropractic world, she had to cut that cord. There's cords when we want to play bigger that we have to let go of so that we can reach more people. If that's our calling, it's not everybody's calling. But if there's a whispering in your soul and my soul to do that, listen to that. We all know what we can say no to. And how do you say no without being mean?
We'll go through your calendar with you to help you decide.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you say no? I mean, because it really can feel awful and uncomfortable, especially for different types of communication styles. Admittedly, as a director, as a high D type of communicator, people might know that from lots of different assessment tools. It is a little easier for me, but it's certainly as a woman in a society who's expected to do it all, it can be daunting. How do you help make it easier to say no? What would your advice be?
Well, as you know, I'm the template queen. So I have a template for everything. So what I've learned along the way, here are the things that I've learned. And I wish I knew all of these 100 years ago. So one is you basically buy time. So I used to be one of those people, or they like my energy, or can you help volunteer? Or I'm having a cocktail party. Can you come up? Be like, sure. I said yes in the moment. Okay. And then I would backpedal. Why did I do that? How can I get out of it? I'm too tired. So, one simple rule that a lot of people don't know or think of is to buy time. And the answer is, wow, that sounds fabulous. Let me check my schedule. Let me check my schedule. So, it buys you time to go home, to look at your schedule, or to rethink, your response. Number two, when you don't want to do something or it's just too much, it's not that you don't want to, I have another commitment. Here's the culprit. You do not need to explain. The commitment can be you want to be home with a glass of wine and taking a tubby. It doesn't, really, it can be self-care, but I have another commitment. So it's basically, or the other thing is, and that I like to teach the sandwich technique. I say this all the time. I have a women's networking group, and every month we have a couple of meetings. So when I put out there to the meeting, what I tell them is don't ghost me. Say something instead of just like, oh, I can't make the meeting, but I don't want to make her feel rejected or whatever. Don't ghost me. You do the sandwich technique. You say something positive. Wow, that sounds like an amazing event that you have going on. The meat is, unfortunately, I can't make this one. And then you end with a positive, hopefully next time. I appreciate it. But the deeper level is I respect you then. When you don't answer, and then we don't answer often because why you're asking me to do this, we don't know what to say. We don't know what to say.
Trust, right? Those loose
Yes.
ends, those
Yes.
loops that you don't close when you're communicating to donors or to board members or to staff, those, they create an in for trust to start eroding, I think.
Those first impressions are so, so very important. And again, that goes back to, you know, the communication, the saying no. It goes back to how are you showing up, the nonverbal communication? What's people's first impression about you? We've talked about even in our coaching, 55% of our communication's nonverbal. How are you coming across? So stepping into the spotlight, that phrase is looking, shining the light on the inside. Where are the cobwebs in here? What do I need to clean up? How do I need to be more aware of myself? And on the outside, how am I coming across? Am I coming across confident? Is it matching with the language of leadership, the language of leadership?
Yeah, and I just want to reinforce that this confidence can come from that inner game of knowing your strength and having the tools and tactics, and your girlfriend's charisma, confidence, right, and courage. And it comes from having, I have to make a plug for it, a good strategic plan, like information where you can confidently share about your organization, where it's thriving, where it's not doing well, and what your plan is to fix it. So when we mix sort of that ability to own your power and your confidence, trust yourself to be present in these communications, and be prepared, right? It's such a great combination in sales. It really makes you feel invincible, and it makes fundraising so much fun because you're not in this cycle of resistance, but you're really going with the flow to find your people.
Right. Fundraising should be fun. I actually have a survey on my website about which sister do you need more of, because each of us, there's usually one area that we need that extra sister. And I've asked women, young women, my nieces in their early 20s, and it's interesting, almost a focus group. And right away, they each said instantly, I need more of the sister courage and more of the sister charisma. So where can we bring that forth? One of the, I just want to give another little example in the corporate world where confidence was really inspired. So many of these women are confident, like you said, they're already confident in their knowledge, they're confident in their education, they're confident as supervisors, but they miss the charisma. And then they fight with me a little bit. I love the pushback. I don't need charisma, Heidi. They should just do their job. Yes, but guess what? They're afraid of you. They're not doing their job because you're coming across like a sergeant. You're confident, but the softness and the engagement is a way to motivate certain personalities. So when you come across driving people with fear, instead of compliments or whatever their needs are, it makes a big difference. So the confidence sister needs to sometimes soften it a little bit. So for you, Amy, let's put you on the spot. So which out of the three sisters, because I've seen all three and I know you, we have a relationship, but what sister do you feel like you need more of?
Out of confidence, charisma, and courage. So I haven't taken your survey on your website, so I want to do that. But I think you've already diagnosed me, I'm sure. I think I have traits of all of them, but the one that needs the most exercise at this point, I think it's ultimately it's the confidence. I think it's I think the courage is always something I'm exercising, but the courage is what fuels the confidence. What are your thoughts? You think it's confidence, charisma?
Well, that's a good, thank you for putting yourself on the line because I haven't put that out there for you. So the confidence I see, and again, you are seasoned in the work that you do, but what's coming to mind right now that we are working on right now is you stepping away when you're doing these big speaking engagements and getting paid nicely for them, taking away the notes. Now I know that's all courage, but here's what I'm going to throw in that might be interesting to you. Like right now, and knowing you personally, you've got a lot of charisma. However, I think sometimes when we get up on stage, we're like, I need to be this goes back to the serious professor.
All the
I need to be the teacher. They need to get value out of this. What I'm teaching you more to be interactive with your audience, have a little more fun, tell your stories, right?
I totally get that.
So I can remember, I'm like, have fun, do some role playing. You're out there. I know your husband does drum circles, bring that in. So I going to challenge you actually. I think the charisma, bringing that more to your speaking, letting
Yeah.
that part of you, because it's there.
Yes, I see what you're saying. So having being more aware of that and allowing that to shine more with, so
Yeah,
that my left brain or my research or wanting to have all the answers is sort of tempered, so I can be more present. Um,
exactly.
I love
Yeah.
that. Now, in a fundraising meeting, I'm there, right? Like it's so natural for me. Like I can hear something, I can take it, I can run with it, I can connect the dots. So I see the power of that, taking that charisma to allow yourself to be relaxed enough to trust yourself enough. I think is what really allows that charisma to shine. And I think for me, when I teach my clients community building, it comes down to communications. You have to have a formula of messaging that builds emotional connection, trust, and authority. But if all you're focused on is the authority, like, okay, I have all the answers, I'm an expert, I know this, you have to do it because it's your job, right? All the things you've been using as examples, it's
Yeah.
not enough on its own. You have to have a balance of those things. You have to be prepared, but you also have to lean into the charisma to trust yourself.
You trust yourself, and that's what people, it's still human, that's what they're going to connect. And I learned that when I was a new speaker. I became, I'd be like my personality, I was comfortable in my own skin, charisma, Heidi. And then I would get on stage and I became Audrey. And who's Audrey? Audrey's my mother, who's very like tiny and proper
It's
Bostonian.
manners. Yes.
This manners, exactly. And I could see I was disconnected from the audience. And then
Yeah.
when I hired a
No,
coach
right.
and they said to loosen up, we had to do all these horrible improv exercises to get us out of our head. And then when I started laughing with the audience, or I made a mistake, or I was like, oh, I can't believe I did that, I'm like, they loved it. They loved it when I was human. And that's when I started saying, the more that I allowed Heidi, remember, be authentic, come out, that's when the connections happen. But that's when the sales happen. You and I aren't talking about all this just for fun, fun, fun. How can we be better at fundraising? How can we bring in more gifts to our nonprofits? How can we move up the corporate ladder? How can I be heard at these meetings? As an entrepreneur, how can I get more clients? So these are all skills to help us again go to the next level and play bigger.
Yeah. And to do it in a way that you're excited, you feel proud, you're always learning and slightly uncomfortable, but you're doing it in a way that you feel safe. And I think that's when you see leaders really make quantum leaps, not just in their revenue, but in their enjoyment. And for me, I spent a lot of years on the burnout train. Those are years of my life I'll never get back. Those years had impact on my life. I know I can never change. And I'm not kidding when I say I will have lost a year or two off my life from the lack of sleep, the amount of stress. Um, and I can't reverse that. But what I can do is I can lead a life I'm proud of now, be the person I want to be to those that I love, that look up to me, that I can help become better leaders. And I think you are incredible in helping leaders like me lean into those strengths and understand your skills and where you can make improvements so that you can be more influential.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Absolutely. And I'm so proud of you. I mean, look, as you've got your podcast and leading all these groups and what you're stepping into. And I love the fact, again, you continue to grow. You continue to sharpen the saw. And that's what it's all about for all of us that want to play bigger.
Yeah. Play bigger. The alternative is no fun. Heidi, thanks for being here. Anything you'd like to leave us with today? How can we stay in touch with you? How can we learn more about your work and your resources, and how can we hang out with you more?
Absolutely. I would love to hang out. So, first of all, you can go to my website, which is HeidiInspire.com. You can take your sister surveys under Spotlight. For any of you that are interested in my book, it is on Amazon, so you can purchase it there. And
Love.
I'm very active on, I live on, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, but I'm mostly on Facebook. It's kind of my home. Heidi Parr Kerner, friend request me, follow me there. Like this morning, that's when I did my no little video. And I'm always open to connecting, reconnecting, collaborating. Again, how can we all grow and serve and support one another? So thanks to Kelly again for connecting us, Amy, because you've been such a joy to work with. And I'm inspired by you playing bigger.
Thank you. Listen, thanks for being here. Thanks for inspiring our audience today. Thank you all for joining us live or on the replay. And remember, while changing the world is hard, fundraising doesn't have to be. Take good care, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thanks, Amy.